I stared at the empty front row of the church, my hands gripping the cold wooden pew until my knuckles turned white. The organ's sombre notes echoed through the hall, bouncing off the stained glass windows, and yet all I could feel was the hollow absence of my son. His father's casket lay only a few feet away, a polished oak box holding the man who raised him, taught him to fish, fixed his first car, and stayed up all night when he was sick. And my son was nowhere to be found. My breath trembled as the priest spoke, but I wasn't listening. I kept glancing at the entrance doors, praying they would swing open, that maybe, just maybe, he would come rushing in with an apology, even late. But the doors stayed shut. My heart cracked, one piece at a time, as neighbours and relatives filled the seats, whispering to each other, their eyes darting toward the empty spot that should have been his. My sister leaned in, her voice a sharp whisper in my ear. "He's not coming, is he?" I couldn't answer. My throat burned. I already knew why. I'd seen the pictures on social media that morning, a bright, cheerful post from his wife. Balloons, a pink cake, and smiling faces. "Best birthday ever," the caption said. My husband's funeral. On the same day. And my son had chosen candles and laughter over the man who gave him life. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. I sat there, stone still, as the priest finally invited me to stand and say my last words. My legs trembled, but I rose. Every step toward that coffin felt heavier than the last. I placed my hand on the polished wood, whispering, "He's not here. I'm so sorry." Tears blurred my vision, but I heard a soft gasp behind me, then murmurs. People were watching, judging, pitying. I hated it. I hated that my husband's last goodbye was tainted by shame. After the burial, I drove home alone. The house was dark and cold, the kind of silence that eats at your soul. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring. It didn't. Instead, I scrolled again through social media, and there he was, my son, laughing in a video, feeding his wife cake, while my husband's grave was still fresh in the earth. My heart pounded. I wanted to scream, to drive to his house and shake him, but I didn't. I just sat there, replaying every memory of him as a little boy, running to his father, giggling, calling him Dad. That night, I couldn't sleep. The clock ticked louder than usual, every second slicing into me. At 3 a.m. I finally dozed off, only to wake at dawn with a strange calm. I got dressed in black again, as if my body already knew something was coming. At exactly 7:15 a.m., my doorbell rang. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the knob. When I opened the door, there he was, my son, his face pale, eyes red and swollen, his hands shaking. Before I could say a word, he dropped to his knees on my doorstep, the same ground where he used to play with toy cars as a child. "Mum," he choked out, voice breaking. "I messed up. I messed up so bad." His tears hit the concrete, and for a second I almost reached out. Almost. But then I remembered the pictures, the laughter, the balloons. My hand froze in midair. And that's when I took the last step. The one he never expected. I stared down at my son, kneeling on my doorstep like a lost child. The morning light was soft, but it did nothing to hide the rawness in his face. His eyes were bloodshot, his lips trembling, and I could see the outline of his clenched jaw, a man caught between pride and desperation. For a moment, the silence between us was louder than any scream. My neighbours across the street were watering their flowers. I saw one of them pause and glance our way. Embarrassment and anger coiled in my stomach. I didn't want them to see me like this, to see my family like this, broken and exposed. I crossed my arms over my chest, holding myself together. "Why are you here?" My voice was cold, sharper than I intended, but I couldn't help it. He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Mum, please, I couldn't, He stammered, swallowing hard. His hands were shaking as he tried to wipe his face, but it only smeared the tears more. I made a mistake. The word mistake hit me like a stone. A mistake was forgetting to call. A mistake was burning toast. Skipping your father's funeral was a choice. My chest tightened with an anger I'd been holding since yesterday. A mistake, I whispered, my voice trembling. You posted a video of yourself, singing happy birthday to your wife, while we buried your father. He dropped his gaze to the ground, his shoulders caving in. For a second, he was my little boy again, the one who used to hide behind his father's legs whenever he got in trouble. She said it was important. I thought. He stopped, choking on the words. I took a step forward, my shadow falling over him. You thought that cake and balloons were more important than the man who gave you everything? My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for it. I didn't want him to see me weak, but the truth was, I was exhausted. Grief, anger, and betrayal had carved me hollow. He shook his head frantically. No, Mom, no. I didn't think it would feel like this. I didn't think... His hands covered his face, muffling the sob that escaped. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to breathe. My husband's voice echoed in my memory. Calm, steady, always the peacemaker. He's our son. He'll make mistakes. We guide him. We don't abandon him. But my husband wasn't here. He was in the ground, and our son had chosen not to stand by his grave. I stepped back from the doorway. Get up, I said, my voice steady now. He hesitated, then slowly rose to his feet. He looked taller than I remembered, older but also smaller somehow. Come in. He followed me into the house, the same house he'd grown up in, the same hallway where his height had been marked in pencil on the wall. His footsteps were heavy, dragging like he was walking into a courtroom. I led him to the kitchen, the sunlight spilling across the table where I'd spent the night waiting. He sat, but he couldn't meet my eyes. I poured 2 cups of coffee, my hands steady though my heart was not. Tell me everything, I said finally. He took a shuddering breath. I didn't mean to. It's just... She said it would ruin her birthday if I left. She didn't want to celebrate without me. She said she'd never forgive me if I went to the funeral instead of staying. His voice cracked, and he looked at me, desperate for understanding. My stomach turned cold. So you let your wife blackmail you into abandoning your father? I asked, my tone like ice. His mouth opened and closed like he couldn't find the right words. I thought I could make it up to you, to Dad. I thought maybe I could come later. But then He stopped, tears welling up again. I let the silence stretch, heavy and suffocating. Do you know what your uncle said yesterday? I whispered finally. He shook his head. He said he hopes your father didn't see, that maybe God spared him from knowing his own son didn't come to say goodbye. My son's face crumpled, and he pressed both hands to his mouth as a sob tore through him. His shoulders shook violently. I wanted to comfort him. I wanted to wrap my arms around him and tell him it would be okay. But I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I stood and walked to the living room. I picked up the framed photo of his father, smiling, alive, holding our son as a newborn. I returned to the kitchen and set it down in front of him. He stared at it like it might burn him. He waited for you, I said softly. Even in his last hours, he asked where you were. My son broke completely. He buried his face in his arms and sobbed until his whole body shook. I watched him, my own chest tight, my hands trembling. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The coffee went cold. When he finally lifted his head, his face was blotchy and wet. Mum, I'll do anything to make it right. Anything. His voice was a whisper, but it was raw and real. I studied him for a long time. Anything. He nodded. I walked to the cabinet and pulled out a folder. I'd spent all night preparing it. He watched me, confused, as I laid it on the table and slid it toward him. "What's this?" he asked. "Your father's will," I said. His hands froze. "The lawyer called yesterday. You were supposed to be there. Instead, I signed it alone." He swallowed hard. I could see the fear blooming in his eyes. He opened the folder slowly, scanning the pages, and then his face went pale. He looked up at me, panic flooding his features. "Mum? What did you do?" I leaned in, my voice low, steady, and colder than I'd ever heard it before. "I took the last step, the one you will never forget." His eyes widened, his lips trembling, and that's when I told him what I had done. I watched his fingers tremble as they hovered over the pages of the will. His lips moved, but no sound came out. He scanned the lines again, eyes darting, trying to understand what he was reading. His face went through confusion, fear, then raw panic. I let him sit in it for a moment. My silence was louder than any lecture. "Mom," his voice cracked like a boy lost in a storm. This says, the house, the land, Dad's accounts, they're all... He looked up at me, eyes red and wet. "They're all under your name only. I don't get anything?" I folded my arms and leaned on the counter, staring down at him. "Not yet." His breath hitched. "Not yet." "Your father and I discussed this for years," I said quietly. "He wanted to leave everything to you eventually. He believed in second chances. He always thought, no matter what mistakes you made, family comes first. But..." I let the word hang in the air like a knife. "You didn't come first for him yesterday. You didn't come at all." He shook his head violently. "Mum, no. I was stupid. I thought she needed me. I didn't think he'd..." He choked on the words, then slammed his hand on the table. "I didn't think he'd die without me saying goodbye." His voice broke into a sob, and he gripped his hair with both hands. I closed my eyes for a second, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Do you know what I did last night?" I whispered. He froze, his hands still in his hair. "What?" I walked to the window, staring out at the garden his father had loved. "I rewrote the final instruction with the lawyer. Everything is under my name now, and when I die it will go to charity if I choose. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is guaranteed to you anymore." He gasped like I'd hit him. "Mom, no, you can't, you wouldn't." I turned to him slowly. I already did. He slid out of the chair and onto his knees again, the sound of his body hitting the floor echoing in the kitchen. "Please, Mom, please. I'll fix it. I'll do anything." His desperation filled the room, but I kept my face still, my voice calm. "You want to fix it? Then tell me, why was her birthday more important than your father's last day on earth?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He shut it again and sobbed silently. That was answer enough. My heart twisted painfully. This was my son, my baby, the boy I carried, the boy his father adored. And yet, the man he had become was a stranger in that moment. I knelt slowly in front of him, close enough to see every tear clinging to his lashes. "I'm not cutting you out forever," I said softly. "But you need to earn this family back. Earn me back." He nodded frantically. I will, Mom, I swear." His phone buzzed on the table. We both froze. Slowly he reached for it, and I saw the name flash on the screen. Melissa, his wife. He hesitated, looking at me like a child caught stealing. I raised an eyebrow. "Answer it." His hands shook as he put it to his ear. "Hey." I could hear her voice through the speaker, shrill and impatient. "Where are you? I told you we need to post the brunch pictures before noon, or it won't trend." My jaw tightened. My son flinched like every word was a whip. I'm at Mom's," he said quietly. "You're what?" Her voice rose, sharp and demanding. I told you. Don't let her guilt you. We had fun yesterday, that's what matters. Your dad wouldn't care about a dumb funeral. Are you seriously letting her control you like this? My stomach turned. My son's face went pale. Melissa, please. Not now. Not now, she snapped. When then? You better not be crying over that old man. I snatched the phone from his hand before she could. Finish. My voice was like steel. Melissa, this is his mother. And that old man you're talking about was my husband. The man your husband didn't honor yesterday. There was a beat of silence, then a mocking laugh. Oh, so the guilt trip continues. He's a grown man. He doesn't need you making him feel like trash. My blood boiled, but my voice stayed deadly calm. Melissa, if you have any sense at all, you will hang up this phone right now, because the next words out of your mouth might cost you more than you can imagine, she scoffed. Or what? You gonna write me out of the will too? The line went dead. My hand trembled slightly as I set the phone down. My son stared at me, horrified and speechless. I leaned close to him, my voice quiet and dangerous. She laughed at your father's death, and you let her make you miss his goodbye. He swallowed hard, tears streaming down his face again. I don't know what to do. I stood up slowly, looking down at him. Then listen carefully, because if you want any chance to fix this, you'll do exactly as I say. His chest rose and fell in fast, shallow breaths. What do I have to do? I reached for the envelope I had prepared the night before. My hand lingered on it, feeling the weight of the choice I was about to give him. First, you're going to pack a bag. You're not going back to her house today, or tomorrow. His eyes widened. What? If you want to earn my forgiveness, if you want to earn back your father's honor, you will stay here, with me, and you will face what you've done without her whispering in your ear. He hesitated, looking torn in half. But she'll be furious. I leaned in, my voice a whisper. Good. Let her be furious. If you can't even stand up to her now, you don't deserve what your father left behind. He went silent. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second stretching into eternity. Then slowly he nodded. Okay, Mom. I'll stay. I placed the envelope in his hands. Then open this. It's step 1. His fingers fumbled with the seal. He slid the papers out, eyes scanning the first page, and then his face drained of all colour. He looked at me in shock, his mouth opening and closing, his voice barely a whisper. Mom, you can't be serious. You really want me to do this? I crossed my arms, my face unreadable. If you want your family back, if you want redemption, this is where it begins. He stared at the paper, frozen, as if the weight of my demand had pinned him to the chair. Then slowly his hands began to tremble harder, because the first step I had written for him was something he never thought he would have to do. He stared at the paper like it was a death sentence. His knuckles went white as he gripped it tighter. His lips quivered as he read the words again and again, trying to process them. I watched him struggle. The first step was clear, and I had written it in black ink. File for separation from Melissa and stay here until the estate matters are settled. He shook his head violently, almost dropping the paper. No, Mom, I can't. His voice cracked like dry wood. I leaned on the counter, my eyes fixed on him, my voice low and steady. You can, you will, or you can leave right now and forget this family ever existed. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked down at the paper, tears falling onto the edge. Mom, I love her. The words stabbed at me, but I didn't flinch. And she doesn't love you, not the way a wife should. She loves what you can give her. Your time, your attention, your money. Yesterday proved that. He buried his face in his hands, groaning, his voice muffled. I can't just leave her like that. She'll go crazy. She'll ruin my life. I walked over, standing over him, my shadow falling across the table. She already ruined your father's funeral. She already made you miss the last chance to honor the man who raised you. Your life is already in pieces because of her. He flinched at my words, his shoulders shaking. Mum, she'll tell people. She'll twist everything. Let her, I said coldly. She already twists everything. The difference now is that you'll be free of her voice in your ear, free to hear your own conscience again. He stayed frozen, shaking, silent for a long time. The clock ticked, loud, insistent. Outside, a bird landed on the branch and flew away again. Finally, he whispered, If I do this, will you forgive me? My throat tightened, but I forced my voice to stay calm. I'll start to. And your father, wherever he is. He might too. He swallowed hard, his eyes wild and bloodshot. He reached for his phone with trembling fingers, unlocked it, and stared at the screen. Melissa had sent 10 new messages, one after another. Where are you? Are you ignoring me? We need to plan dinner. You better not be with her again. He stared at the screen and then, with a shaking thumb, he opened the contacts and hovered over her name. Call her, I said quietly. His head snapped up, his face pale. What? Call her, I repeated. Right now, and tell her you won't be coming home, that you're staying here for a while. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing like he was about to choke. His thumb trembled, and then slowly he pressed call. The ringing filled the room, once, twice, 3 times. Then her voice, sharp and impatient. Finally, where have you been? Do you even… Melissa, he interrupted, his voice shaking. I'm not coming home tonight. Silence. Then a burst of mocking laughter. Excuse me? What are you talking about? Stop playing games and get back here. We have plans. No, he said, voice breaking. I'm staying with Mum for a while. I need some space. There was a long pause. Then her voice turned ice cold. Are you serious? After everything I've done for you? After I chose to be with you instead of all the guys who actually… Stop, he said, his voice cracking louder now. Just stop. I can't do this right now. I need time to think. The sound that came from the phone was like a viper's hiss. If you walk away from me, don't you dare come back. Do you hear me? You leave and we're done. My son's hand shook. He looked at me, tears streaking his face, silently begging me to step in. I didn't. He sniffed hard, wiped his face with his sleeve and whispered into the phone. Then, I guess we're done. For a second there was no sound. Then a scream, high, shrill and furious before the call cut off. His hand fell to his lap. He stared at the phone like it had burned him. I did it. His voice was hollow. I walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. That's only the beginning. He shivered under my touch. The air felt heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. What now? He whispered. I walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a small metal key. I placed it on the table in front of him. Step 2, I said. He picked up the key slowly, his brow furrowed. What is this? I met his eyes. It's for the shed in the back. Your father left something there before he died. Something he wanted you to see if you ever broke his heart. His face went white. Broke his heart? Yes, I said, my voice like a whisper of wind through a graveyard. And after yesterday, you need to face what's in there. He stared at the key, frozen, his hand trembling. I could see the fear blooming in his chest, spreading across his face like a shadow. Without another word, I turned toward the back door, the creak of the hinges loud in the tense air. He followed me, clutching the key. The grass was damp under our shoes as we walked through the garden to the shed. The small wooden building sat in the far corner of the yard, half covered in ivy. The air smelled like earth and rain. He hesitated at the door, the key shaking in his hand. "Mum, what if I can't?" "Then you'll never forgive yourself," I said softly. His breath hitched and slowly he slid the key into the lock. It clicked. He pushed the door open. The inside was dim, smelling of dust and old wood. A single ray of light came through a small window, illuminating a covered object in the centre. He stepped inside, the floor creaking. "Go on," I whispered from the doorway. He approached the object slowly, like it might bite him. His hands reached out and pulled the tarp away. And there, sitting in the middle of the shed, was something that made his mouth drop open and his knees nearly buckle. His father's final secret, waiting in silence, staring him right in the face. He froze. The tarp crumpled in his hands, and I could see the colour drain from his face as if the earth itself had swallowed his courage. His eyes darted to mine, wide and trembling, his lips parting like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Inside the shed, in the centre, under that dusty ray of light, sat a wooden chest with his father's handwriting carved across the top. "For my son, if he ever forgets who he is." His hands trembled as he knelt in front of it, his fingers tracing the uneven letters. He swallowed hard. "Mom, I didn't even know he could carve." I stayed silent, letting the weight of the moment crush him. He slowly opened the chest, the rusty hinges squealing in protest. Inside were photos, letters, and a single sealed envelope with his name on it. He reached for the envelope first, hands shaking like leaves in the wind. He tore it open, and I watched his lips move as he read aloud in a whisper that trembled like he was standing in a storm. "Son, if you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you broke my heart before I left this world. I forgive you. But I want you to see yourself through my eyes one last time. You were once a boy who laughed with me in the yard, who ran barefoot through the grass, who said he wanted to be a man I could be proud of. Somewhere along the way, you let someone else take that boy away from me. I hope one day when you realize what you lost, you will come back to yourself, and maybe back to your family." By the time he reached the end, he was crying silently, his shoulders shaking. He dug deeper into the chest, pulling out photo after photo. Him fishing with his dad, camping trips, birthday parties where his father had built cakes from scratch just to see him smile. Then he found something else, a folded will. He opened it, and his hands stiffened. It was a copy of his father's last wishes. I stepped closer, my voice low. "Read it." His voice cracked as he obeyed. "I leave the house, the land, and all personal assets to my wife. My son will inherit a portion only if he shows he can honor the family and take responsibility." He stopped reading, his voice breaking. His eyes flooded again. He knew. He knew I'd fail him. I knelt beside him, my voice soft but steady. "He didn't want to disown you. He wanted to save you from yourself. Yesterday, you proved him right. But today, maybe you can start proving him wrong." He shook his head, dropping the papers, clutching his face. I can't. I ruined everything." "Not everything," I said, touching his shoulder. "But the next step is the hardest." He sniffed, looking up at me like a child again. "What step?" I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up. "We're going to call Melissa, together. You're going to tell her the marriage is over, and then we're going to the lawyer to secure your father's wishes before she can touch a single thing." He went pale. "She'll destroy me." "She already has," I said, my voice firm. "This is how you take yourself back." He hesitated for a long moment. I could see the war in his eyes. Fear, love, shame, and the faintest spark of courage. Finally, he nodded. I dialed the number and hit speaker. It rang. Once. Twice. Then her voice exploded through the shed like a whip. "Oh, so the prodigal husband finally calls. Did Mommy tuck you in? Are you ready to crawl back?" "Melissa," he interrupted, his voice surprisingly strong. "I'm not coming back. It's over." Silence. Then a low, venomous laugh. "You think you can just leave me? After everything? I'll make sure you regret this." I stepped forward, my voice like steel. "No, Melissa. He already regrets yesterday. And from today on, he's done letting you control him." She hissed, and then the line went dead. My son stared at the phone like it was a lifeline cut. For a moment he was silent, his breath ragged. Then he let out a sob that turned into a scream, years of guilt and anger pouring out into the tiny shed. He collapsed against me like he was 10 years old again. I held him, feeling his tears soak my shoulder. "It's done," I whispered. "It's finally done." The next morning we met with the lawyer. My son signed the separation papers, and we locked down the estate according to his father's will. Melissa showed up at the house that afternoon, pounding on the door, screaming threats. But when she saw the lawyer step outside with the documents, her face went pale. She realized in that instant she had lost, completely. My son stood at the window watching her drive away, his hands trembling but his jaw set. He turned to me, voice hoarse. "Mum, I'm so sorry for everything." I touched his cheek, my eyes wet. "Your father would want you to start over, and so do I. But you can never erase what happened yesterday. Let that be the day you never forget." He nodded, silent. That night he placed his father's letter on the mantel beside the urn. He whispered, "I'll be better, I promise." And for the first time since the funeral, I saw a man trying to rise from his knees, not for me, not for Melissa, but for himself. And in that moment, I knew his regret had finally turned into resolve.